What are some places that churches tend to get it wrong or sometimes just simply avoid when it comes to talking honestly about death?
What I find is that they're just not talking about it. Maybe at sermons it's talked about and there's some theological work done, but they're not talking about the lived experience of what we do with this reality and of our mortality and the anxiety or the possibilities that it opens up for us. So my first thing is just to start talking about it. And up until the late 1800s and the 20th century, death and dying was really something people were kind of on their own with it, before the rise of modern medicine. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you may have a doctor or some kind of healer who would come to you and try to offer some assistance, but basically you were kind of on your own. And things changed dramatically with the rise of modern medicine. And all of a sudden now professionals are the ones who are taking responsibility and leading and guiding on care. And all of that is wonderful. But death in the process has become primarily a medical event. Yeah. And not a communal event, not a religious event, not a spiritual event, not something with the family. It is primarily a medical event and a physiological process. And I think this is partly why in the church we don't have much to say about it, because
that's death, that's the end.
Right.
Period.
And in this model, the body is the battlefield and death is the enemy, and you duke it out in your body, with all these interventions. And that's where hope is invested too then. Our hope is invested in the doctors and the medicine. So where does that leave the church? What is hope? What hope do we have to offer? And often people think when there's no more treatments, there's no more hope.
Oh,
which
that's
I
so
think
true.
Increases our anxiety about death and dying because we pulled the rug out of hope, under hope. And so what else is there now? So beginning to examine this, talk about this, and ask this question, what is a larger understanding of hope? You know, and something large enough to sustain us no matter what the outcome is.
Yep.
So, and what I find, and actually the research shows that these conversations are very, very enlivening.
Enlivening.
Yes.
What a paradox. That talking about death is enlivening.
It is enlivening. It is to put it out there and ask the questions and give people a chance to say, however it is, what they have learned from their families about death. What are the messages from the church, from society, to just put those out there. And then again, what does our tradition have to say?
Yep.
How speak into these narratives.
Yep.
So I feel like that's one of the biggest surprises again and again. And one of the biggest delights is just how people come away so grateful to be able to spend some time talking about and examining their experience, their relationship to death.